What's the biggest difference between Challenger and Silver ADC that allows for killing everyone around without dying? You probably think it's all about mechanics, since it's one of the most important skills you need. But what if I told you it couldn't be further from the truth? And the best part is that literally anyone could learn it. The difference I'm talking about is positioning. I'm sure some of you have seen challengers or even pro players do some crazy plays that you would think are not even possible. To most, it might look like some random ass movement or someone being just insanely lucky. But it's not random. Every challenger puts a lot of thought behind each movement. And while mechanics do play a role in something like that, it's only a tool that helps you improve your gameplay. Really, you can have great mechanics, yet you will just die if you are in the wrong place. Whereas when you play for positioning, you outtrade pretty much everyone. In this video, I'll show you what it's all about, how do challengers do it, and why it's more effective than almost anything that you do. By the end of this video, you'll be able to space glide like Rat IRL. Okay, no, I was lying. You're not him. But at least you'll improve enough to impress your friends. No, that's not it either. League players don't have friends. But you will learn challenger level positioning and you'll be able to flame others and point out their mistakes instead.
What the fuck elo is this again? I saw two Grandmaster icons by the way this game.
Not really. Yes, that's the one. Anyways, let's get right into it. Positioning, despite being quite simple concept on paper, has a lot of nuances to it. Saying you should just stay behind your team and you'll be fine leads nowhere and doesn't explain anything. The thing about positioning is that it impacts your performance throughout the entire game, especially on ADC, because it's one of the key skills you need. So it's not just about teamfighting. Remember how many times you just randomly lost half HP on lane because your support wasn't helping you and you ended up flaming them? Yeah, skill issue, but on your end, all of it would be avoidable if you knew how to look at the lane and your position during fights. And no, it doesn't matter if the fight is good or not, because good positioning will help you get much better trades, or even let you survive an entire enemy team running at you as if their life depended on it, and even bait them into dying. Oh my fucking god, I actually survived it. So, if positioning is so important, what is it really about? Is it about zoning? Maybe about playing aggressive? Or maybe it's all about the minions? Well, it's actually a lot more, so let's break it down. When it comes to positioning in the early game, there are three main things you have to keep in mind. The first one being threat assessment. Sounds simple. You assess what's gonna kill you or make your life miserable. Later, you try to be conscious of it at all times. And the moment most, if not all threats disappear, you can go in and fight. Let's take this clip as an example. That's too aggressive. As you can see, the moment I went in was when all the CC abilities were gone. Were they under the tower? Maybe. Did the voices take over me to get silly and completely ignore the tower that is quite a huge fucking threat just to dive them? Now for the second thing that you have to know, when to go in versus when to play safe. Because if you play too aggressively, you will usually be the first one to die. Or you're gonna lose most of your HP before the fight even starts. Come on, you're not the frontliner for fuck's sake. If Dantes could get it, so can you. And what if you're the last one to survive? Sounds good, right? Well, not really. Of course, surviving is good, like really good, but the odds are you're staying alive because you play too safe. With that comes much lower damage. So you're basically stopping yourself from participating in a teamfight because you're scared for no reason. I mean, as an ADC you should be scared, yet you should really try and push your limits and find balance between playing safe and aggressive. And the best way to do that is to simply limit test. When the fight breaks out, you try to deal as much damage as possible. And if you die, you review the game and try to look how you could have played it better, and then try to play a bit safer the next fight. On the other hand, if you did survive, it's worth checking where you could step up and deal more damage. As you do it more and more, you will eventually find that sweet spot of playing aggressive enough to deal tons of damage without dying too much. Okay, and what about the third thing I was talking about? Well, this one is simple. In 99% of the cases, you just want to play front to back. So if your support engages, you want to focus whatever is closest to you, and often it's the support, not the AD carry. And yes, I know, focusing only ADC does sound tempting, but you should go fully on them only if you know for sure that you can kill them without dying yourself, or when you feel confident you can take a very favorable trade. Trust me, even I fell for this on more than one occasion. But if on the other hand you don't feel confident at all because you have no hands, I've got something for that. Skill Gap is a free app that can help you improve your mechanics without having to spend hours on ranks. It has a lot of mini games to help you with whatever you need the most. You can also get premium version to have access to even more features, and if you use my link, you will also support me. Link in the description. Bot lane is a 2v2 lane, making it much harder to play around because you have to consider 3 other players. And that's where most ADCs get it wrong. They play it as a 1v1 with enemy ADC and think supports play another 1v1. I know, it sounds fucking ridiculous when I say it like that, but it's actually the case. In most of the coaching sessions I had, people seem to not take supports into consideration at all. And yes, I coach and you can book the coaching session with me on Discord, or you can ask me any questions. Link in the description. Now, since the lane is 2v2, it would be good for you to be conscious of everyone's position. How to do it then? In general, support is the most important champion on bot because they are the ones dictating the tempo of the lane and structure of positioning. So, don't focus on enemy ADC. Instead, you should mostly focus on enemy support. Imagine you're playing against draven Nautilus. Sounds fucking scary. Ask yourself though, what are you more scared of? One flying axe that takes half of your HP, or a gigantic fucking anchor flying at you at max speed with hitbox bigger than your mom that will pull you right into those flying axes. Exactly. And the same applies to any other matchup. You try to take a trade against Enchanter, they will shield and poke. Against mages, you will lose all of your HP before even getting in range. Engage or disengage, they will chain CC you. It's that simple. When you're not sure if taking the trade is the best idea, keep an eye on the enemy support a bit more compared to the ADC. Of course, after you get better at this, you definitely should pay attention to both, but everybody starts somewhere. When you focus on the support, you can for example bait out their engage and then go in. You can see if Tariq already used his gems on his favorite ADC and act accordingly. Okay, if supports are so scary, how can you win some trades? It feels like some champions will outtrade you no matter what. Yes, some champions will outtrade you by default, but there are few things that you can do to make it much easier. Let's start with something simple. Positioning around minions. If you stay behind the minions, enemies won't be able to hit skill shots. And if they still decide to trade with you, the moment they attack you, the minions will aggro on them, making the trade favorable for you. So just don't walk away too far from your minions. As I said, simple. Now, I'm gonna show you mirror positioning, one of the 3 positioning styles on lane, and something that might be a bit contradictory to what I described before. But yeah, shit happens, I don't make the rules. Look at how this challenger player is walking away from the minions rather than standing among them. What he is doing is trying to stay away as far as possible from enemies by playing opposite to enemy ADC. And that's what mirroring is. If they walk up, you back off. If they move up, you move down. Of course, as I said before, you should also keep an eye on enemy support while doing it. Mirror positioning is done mostly to avoid any unnecessary trades and making it harder for enemies to engage, because as I said, minions will start doing funny things. You being further away forces enemies to commit to the fight even more if they do want to force anything, and just like in this clip, Tristana jumps in just to almost die to a very balanced Poppy support. Challenger, by the way. Now, let's talk about the second type, parallel positioning. First, imagine the lane. You play as an ADC, and this is your range, meaning your threat zone. Now, what if I told you you could literally double your threat zone just by better positioning? Because let's add a ranged support and their range. And that's the threat zone of both of you. Now I'm gonna do a little trick called moving my ass. Crazy! Now you are covering the entire fucking lane just by moving slightly away from your support. And that's what parallel positioning is. You play in line with your support and expand your pressure by covering a much bigger part of the lane. And why is it so important? You are making it impossible for the enemy to do anything and potentially make them regret their choices. Because look what happens when you back off slightly. You create a small pocket for enemy where they can farm for free. And to show an example of parallel positioning, I'm gonna use one of my recent games. This time, we are all ranged champions, and for reference, Karma was late to the lane because of early invade, so we got pushed level 1. As you can see, there are two moments when I'm not walking up as far as my support because I'm playing around the minions and enemy poke. And the only time I commit to the fight is because I know the fundamentals and I play around the level up timer, which for some godforsaken reason, enemies disrespected like crazy. But look at that, at almost every point of the fight, I'm trying to play parallel to my support, even when they are backing off. Fortunately, Kalista's passive is showing it, so I don't have to animate this shit. Okay, now that we know what to do when our support has high range, what are you supposed to do when they are melee or don't have any poke abilities? That's where the second type comes in, hover position. It's pretty simple concept, so I'll let you guys try to figure it out on your own before explaining. Let's rewatch the clip from the beginning of the video. Just watch closely the movement of Jinx. Well, I hope at least some of you deducted what this Jinx was doing, but for the rest of you, I'll make it clear. She was, surprise surprise, hovering Alistar. But there's actually a lot more going on, so now I'll explain what's happening. Jinx has quite a range advantage over Kai'Sa, and yet she is not really walking up to her for poke. She is for sure inting, right? Nope. She is trying to walk up aggressively to poke enemy ADC, but she is mostly focused on hovering around Alistar, because if anyone walks up, she will be in range of Alistar to get pilled against enemies. And as you can see, enemy Maokai decided to engage on Jinx, but thanks to her hovering position, Alistar was able to instantly react and pill her, and pretty much get him out of the lane, all the while Kai'Sa being too far to follow up. And yes, this Maokai inted hard, but it's because he completely misread the situation. And if you're also struggling with supports like that, but don't know what to do, I highly recommend my guides about carrying bot supports. And if you're new, just don't get scared. I used AI voice in my older videos, but there is still a shit ton of knowledge, so I highly recommend them. Anyways, where was I? Ah right, positioning like challenger. Now, knowing those two types of positioning, you'll already improve a lot. But to put yuumi to the ground, cherry on top, you can actually switch between those two. You are not forced to constantly be in line or right next to your support. Because if you have zoning potential and good engage, you can always change up what you're doing to make your positioning even better. Adapting to what's happening on the lane is essential for improvement and climbing. To show what I mean, here's a clip of JDG Ruler playing Caitlyn with Thresh. As you can see, he is constantly changing between parallel position and hovering, depending on how enemies act. That and playing around enemy threats allows him to avoid any poke, and also lets him throw a headshot on Janna, making her very killable. Then, he is trying to zone out Xayah by staying in line with Thresh, yet the moment Janna walks up, Ruler knows she is hard inting and starts hovering around Thresh, being aware he's about to do funny things to her. So as you can see, his sequence of playing in line and hovering around his support allowed for poke into a kill setup while constantly applying pressure against enemies. And remember when I mentioned adapting being essential before? Well, look exactly how in each moment Ruler is positioning himself with his support relative to enemies. Now look at positioning in my clips. You see, the main reason to position yourself one way or another on bot lane is to create a 2v1 situation, so both you and your support can focus the same person while also denying the exact same thing to enemies. Let's put this to use so you can understand better how to change up your position in fights. Breaking down a play from Blood Elo sounds like a good way of doing so. We have Swain Sivir versus Smolder Milio. Swain is engaging on enemies. He misses his E, yet Sivir starts walking up. Her movement here is good because despite Swain missing his main engage, they stay somewhat parallel to each other and that allows them to chunk Smolder's HP a lot more. In this case, everyone set up a 2v1 position, except Smolder is the one in the front, so he loses the most HP. If he wanted to position better, he would have to swap the position with Milio. But afterwards, Swain decides to walk in even further despite having everything on cooldown, therefore he loses tons of HP and is forced to back off. But Sivir, seeing her support going in, decides to follow up and now is going alone into enemies to also lose some HP. Knowing what I said before, what do you guys think the Sivir should have done? The moment Swain goes in too deep, knowing that your goal is to create a 2v1 situation, Sivir could walk around towards Milio and start attacking him for free. This way, Sivir would get at least some value out of this inting support. Being conscious of your main goal during positioning allows you to see all the trades differently, and you'll know when you or your enemies are making mistakes. Speaking of mistakes, 99% of the players commit this one crime and should be locked up in prison. Source, trust me bro, I've seen a lot of high diamond players fall for it and they are statistically in top 1%. What am I talking about? Well, don't feel forced to follow shitcalls. This one is quite significant because if you have enough mental capacity not to all in every time you see a fight happening, you'll be able to turn bad fights into reasonable trades, or at least you can avoid throwing the entire lane. Let's take Nico from earlier as an example, because this one is gonna be easy, since I'm just trying not to throw the entire lead I was fighting for from the first minute of the game. Obviously, my support after winning all the trades so far got a bit silly and thought she could 1v9 the game. Weapons of choice, walking up into enemies, into double poke with absolutely no fucking minions, taking damage and of course, flaming me. So, you know, the League classic. There was no reason to fight because it would be instantly lost. I know it, you know it, she clearly did not. Playing around the minions is rather important. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Teleport into them and use scripts to dodge all the stuff they are throwing at us? Yeah, I don't think so. And since I see she is mad and not following stupid calls takes a lot of mental restraint, I just mute her so I don't have to bother with her again. Okay, I see. Muted. This was an obvious situation where there was no room to even fight and the choice was simple. But what if there is a very questionable fight where you think you can join? We've all been there. Your support engages or your jungler forces the most fucking ridiculous fight, you try to outplay and enemy gets triple killed, your jungler and support flame you, top lane goes AFK, your dad goes out for milk, you know, the usual ADC stuff. So how to avoid it? Well, except for just straight up not joining in, you can also use hover position, because even if your support is running it down, if you hover around them at a safe distance, you can turn a bad fight into a reasonable trade. You just have to make sure to not overcommit. To understand the thought process behind deciding if the fight is worth committing and how to hover in situations like that, I'll break down a bit more complex clip from one of my last games. It starts off by me poking down Lucian and dealing quite a bit of damage. So of course my support, seeing things and hearing voices, wants to all in. And I know that because he tried to constantly all in the entire laning phase. So he lands his W and Q and Lucian gets really low. I'm chilling though, you can see me standing quite far back and not committing to the fight. There is a reason for that. Lucian and I may have similar items, but despite the fight being even on paper, I know that Lucian and Braum is an absolutely disgusting combo and I would lose my entire HP instantly. First, Braum would block all of my attacks with his E. Then I would get stunned and take the entire Lucian combo on my face. On top of it, we only have Rakan's exhaust, while enemies have exhaust and barrier. So as you can see, it would be really hard to kill them. But by standing back, Rakan is the only one being focused and we end up trading 2 sums for 1 and enemies are basically out of the lane while I took almost no damage. So, in short, if you think your team is inting, you have 2 options. You either hover around them in a safe distance like I did in the clip, or you just ignore them, play for the minions and mute them if they start typing because they know shit and there is no reason to be listening to them. One could expect that late game is different, right? Well, it's actually the exact same thing over and over again as it is during the laning phase. The only thing changed is that there are more players fighting, but all the concepts stay the same. You don't believe me? Oh, you do? Okay, so it doesn't matter I'm gonna show you example anyways, because I can. I'm starting off by playing front to back, meaning I attack whatever the fuck is on my face. Then, as my team comes, I try to stay in parallel line with them, quickly changing it into hover position, because now Blitzcrank is in the front and Zraf ulted. So I'm trying to dodge potential bullshit damage while still attacking. After that, I forgot I'm ADC and tried to melee Renekton. Fortunately, I was still hovering around my team. Later, I kinda left my team, something that might look silly at first glance, but hear me out. That's where the 1% of the situations happen when you don't play front to back. First, I assumed that my team would be fine against Renekton, so it already opened up an option to leave them. Then, looking at Rel, I knew she would die if I left her, but I also knew that if I joined her, we would be able to easily kill them all and survive both. I know that from previous fights, seeing my damage on everyone. So in that moment, I decided that potential triple kill for us is better than my teammates dying 2v1 to the silly Croco champion, which already seemed like a small chance. And now for the last lesson in this video, I'm gonna show you a clip from one of the top ADC players in the world. And yes, I took the clip from Skill Cap. As much as I'm not a big fan of them, the clip they used is really good to explain it all, and also the video I took it from was part of my research. Initially, we see Ruler play front to back with his team, pressuring for a vision around the dragon. Then, as he goes on, he tries to set up the Drake with traps to pressure enemies even more. But there is one problem. He can't position and pressure as well, because literally half his team is gone for no reason. Once they are back, Ruler is trying to force Talon to make a play by walking up, but making sure he doesn't overcommit alone and stays in line with his team. But that's where good fight goes to shit. Now I don't have the original footage, so I have to trust what Skillcap said, and they assumed that Echo had ult, which if he did, the fight would be easily won at that point. To me it looks like he just has it on cooldown. It might also be a replay bug, who the fuck knows. Either way, Echo ended up dying and throwing the entire team fight, just because he was forcing Dragon too much. In the meantime, Ruler knows that the fight is already lost, so he is still trying to hover around the team and get a kill on Pyke, and after that, since there is nothing else he can do, he runs away from Bomba and tries coin flipping a trap on Jhin, because he sees them coming from the fog of war. Sadly, that doesn't work and he ends up dying. And all of it happened because first, his support and mid laner got lost on the map and didn't play with the team, and then Echo just exploded to Talon because of his suboptimal call. So as you can see, no matter how good you are, sometimes you just can't do anything. You will still die despite perfect or near perfect positioning. Why? Because it's still a team game and you have to rely on other players one way or another. And because of it, sometimes you'll just die because of your teammates not killing you or just leaving you alone. And in those situations, if you followed everything I talked about and still died, I actually do give you the permission to flame your team. Just don't type it in the chat, because it will only tilt them more, and we don't want mentally unstable toddlers to get angry at you in your games for gold or emerald. Honestly, there isn't much mentality difference between those players. Anyways, that's all. Thanks, bye.